3. When Xiao Yan woke up, it was almost afternoon. The sky was a little dark, and the cool evening breeze blew into the room. Xiao Yan's remaining sleepiness immediately dissipated. After putting on his long robe, Xiao Yan walked out of the room energetically. As soon as he walked out, he saw Fu Zan walking over with a tired face. Seeing Xiao Yan come out energetically, Fu Zan shook his head with a bitter smile. He had run down excitedly earlier. When he saw the hundreds and thousands of medicine cauldrons on the square, he couldn't help but step forward and give it a try. In the end, he couldn't withstand the last few steps. Not only did he fail to refine the medicine pills, but he also lost all the precious herbs. When he thought about it, Fu Zan felt a pain in his heart. Bai Qian also went down just now. Let's go down and try. The scene in the afternoon is even more spectacular. I am really tired. After greeting, Fu Zan dragged his tired body into his room. After listening to Fu Zan's words, Xiao Yan could not help but have a great interest in the square behind the station. Without any hesitation, he walked downstairs in big strides. At this moment, basically all the participating alchemists in the cities belonging to the Spirit Heaven Mansion had arrived. It was afternoon, and more people were walking towards the square. For a moment, the square was filled with a hubbub of voices. Young men and women wearing different alchemist robes were walking towards the square. Hey, isn't that the trash alchemist of Spirit Sky City? Xiao Yan had just walked out of the gate of the station when two alchemists in red robes walked over. When they saw Xiao Yan's alchemist robe, they immediately sneered. Xiao Yan frowned and looked towards the source of the voice. He saw a man and a woman, both alchemists. The man looked at Xiao Yan with disdain. The woman was just like a pretty girl, and her eyes were filled with contempt. Both of their fingers were tightly clenched, like a pair of lovers. Judging from their robes, they were the two disciples of the previous skinny old man, Shi Shen. Where did this dog bark come from? Get lost! Xiao Yan's eyes swept across the two of them. His voice was emotionless, and he was about to leave. You trash actually dare to scold me. The female alchemist from White Rock City flew into a rage when she heard this. She rushed over and blocked Xiao Yan's path. She pointed her finger at Xiao Yan's nose and scolded him angrily. Her ordinary appearance became even more ferocious because of her fury. When she just entered the Alchemist Guild in Limestone City, she had heard from the uncle master of the pill competition that the Spirit Sky City was a terrible place. Especially in recent years, those people had already belittled the Spirit Sky City to the point of being useless. Naturally, she had no doubt about it, and she was looking down more and more on the alchemists of the Spirit Sky City. This was the first time she had participated in the pill competition. How dare a trash alchemist of the Spirit Sky City scold her like this? As a proud son of heaven, she naturally couldn't bear it. When some of the alchemists from the other cities saw this, they all stopped in their tracks and looked at her with interest. They were all teenagers, and they were very interested in this kind of thing. Seeing that many people had gathered around, the female alchemist of White Rock City became even more arrogant. When she saw her fiancé walk over and stand beside her, she couldn't help but snort coldly. Her fingertips almost touched Xiao Yan's nose, and she said with a sharp voice, "Isn't that the last time in the Spirit Sky City? A bunch of useless alchemists from the Spirit Sky City. You still have the face to come here? Kneel down and admit your mistake. Otherwise, you won't be able to join the pill competition." The man beside her held the woman's hand and laughed loudly. With their strength, it doesn't matter whether they participate or not. When the surrounding people heard this, many of them also laughed out loud. Naturally, there were also some people who coldly looked at them, watching how the man in the arena resolved the situation. Xiao Yan's eyes swept across the fingers of the woman who was pointing at his nose. There were more than 20 alchemists in the crowd. Looking at the relentless expressions of the two men in front of him, it seemed like they were planning to teach him a lesson and make him famous. However, he wasn't someone to be trifled with. With his temperament of over 80 years old, he naturally wouldn't be affected by these teenage, little kids. Xiao Yan's eyes gradually became cold. He slowly raised his head and expressionlessly looked at the complacent woman. The corner of his mouth suddenly revealed a trace of a cold smile. Before the woman could react, a majestic soul force had already flowed out from between Xiao Yan's brows. It was like a bolt of lightning that instantly struck the woman's soul. Puff! The moment Xiao Yan's soul force appeared, the woman's expression changed drastically. She instinctively wanted to defend, but Xiao Yan's soul energy was as fast as lightning. In an instant, it had ruthlessly struck the girl's soul, causing her face to turn incomparably pale. Blood flowed out from her ears and nose. She threw her head back and spat out a mouthful of blood. The woman had already collapsed powerlessly. She was immediately caught by the panicking man beside her. The moment Xiao Yan's soul force appeared, a few of the onlookers were startled. In the next moment, they saw the arrogant woman fall to the ground. The whole process was like a blink of an eye. The majestic soul force had already disappeared. Xiao Yan still stood on the spot with an indifferent expression, and his expression didn't change at all. This soul energy. Could it be that it has already reached the alien realm? A few young men with soul energy had the same thought. The way they looked at Xiao Yan started to have a subtle change. The disciple of Yu Dong, Fu Qing, who was talking to Ji Yun, was standing in the outer circle. His facial expression was very interesting at this moment. He would never have thought that trash from the Spirit Sky City. This year, there was actually a genius whose soul power had reached the alien realm. You actually attacked her soul power. Looking at his fiancée who had fainted in his arms, the man's eyes were filled with anger. He looked at Xiao Yan and said while gnashing his teeth in anger. Didn't she call herself a genius? She couldn't even withstand the soul attack of a useless alchemist from the Spirit Sky City. With this kind of strength, it's better for her to get lost as soon as possible. Don't let others laugh at her. Xiao Yan didn't even look at the furious eyes of the man. He walked straight towards the direction of the square. The surrounding people couldn't help but make way for him. Their faces were filled with shock as they watched Xiao Yan leave. After Xiao Yan left, everyone looked at the two people from White Rock City. They secretly sneered and then dispersed. They were shocked as they talked about Xiao Yan's soul power. The influence on Spirit Sky City in their minds started to change. Picking up the unconscious woman, the man looked at Xiao Yan, who was about to disappear, with hatred in his eyes. He gritted his teeth and said, "Trash from Spirit Sky City. Just you wait." After saying that, he did not dare to delay and hurriedly ran to the headquarters room. Now, only his teacher could help him. How is it, senior brother? That fellow's soul energy just now. How is it compared to yours? After everyone left, a handsome young man wearing a green alchemist robe looked at the handsome young man with shoulder-length black hair and asked with interest. The handsome young man pondered for a moment, as if he was experiencing Xiao Yan's soul power. After a while, he revealed a faint smile and said, "Well, this is just so-so. Someone who can reach the alien realm soul at this age. Almost at the same level. Is that so?" The young man who had asked the question smiled and didn't say anything else. He knew his senior brother's personality very well. The fact that he could say something like this was enough to prove that his soul power was stronger than the young man's. I never thought that I would meet a genius alchemist on this trip. That guy should be able to make it into the top 10. However, it seems like the champion of this year's pill competition is still from Spiritual Sky City. The handsome youth laughed. You can't say that. Don't forget about those mercenary corps. There are even more monstrous geniuses among them. The handsome young man with black hair and shoulder-length hair gazed into the distance and said indifferently. It doesn't matter. Even if senior brother can't do it, there's still senior brother. With his strength, he can definitely win the championship, the young man next to him said nonchalantly. Hearing the words senior brother, a trace of excitement couldn't help but surge onto the handsome young man's face. He smiled and nodded, saying softly, "If eldest senior brother takes action, there will definitely be no problem for him to win the championship. But this time, we must also work hard and strive to win the second and third place championship in one fell swoop." Xiao Yan did not pay much attention to the small episode just now. After a few turns, an extremely large square appeared in front of him. That were arranged neatly on the square. There were nearly 1,000 of them at a glance. At this moment, there were many alchemists guarding an alchemist on the square. They were all focused on pill refinement. For a moment, the cauldron flames soared into the sky and it was very lively. The alchemists wearing all kinds of alchemist robes were shuttling back and forth in the square. Xiao Yan's heart couldn't help but move. He took a deep breath and leisurely walked up to the square and started to stroll around. As he walked on the square, he could smell an unusual pill fragrance coming from time to time. Then, a few cheerful voices could be heard. This meant that someone had successfully refined a medicine pill. However, most of the time, the pungent smell and some people's lamenting voices were emitted because the medicinal ingredients had been reimbursed. Refining a medicine pill in this noisy place indirectly increased the willpower of an alchemist. Sigh. There's an alchemist refining a Tier 4 medicine pill over there. Let's go and take a look. Just as Xiao Yan was strolling aimlessly, he suddenly heard a sharp voice. Some alchemists in the square heard this and excitedly followed the voice. Grade 4 medicine pill. Another alien realm soul alchemist. Xiao Yan pondered for a moment, then followed the crowd. As an opponent who was about to participate in the competition, it was better to pay attention to him, and at the same time, let him feel the strength of an alien realm soul alchemist in the great world. At this moment, in a corner of the square, a pill refining platform was surrounded by many people. In front of the medicine cauldron on the platform, a handsome young man was sitting cross-legged. Even though he was surrounded by dozens of people, the young man's expression did not change at all. His eyes were staring at the medicine cauldron in front of him, and his fingers were moving quickly. Under the young man's control, strange medicinal herbs were inserted into the medicine cauldron. The flame within the cauldron. Under the control of the young man's powerful soul force, the flame was burning with the most appropriate temperature. Very quickly, the dozens of medicinal ingredients that were thrown into the medicine cauldron had all turned into medicinal liquids. He sank into the bottom of the cauldron. What a skilled technique! Looking at the strength of his flame control, it seems like his soul force has already advanced to the alien realm for a period of time. Among the spectators, there were naturally some powerful ones. When they felt the soul power of the young man, they couldn't help but click their tongues in wonder. A stone created 1,000 ripples. When the crowd heard this, they immediately began to chatter amongst themselves. The sudden loud noise caused a Tier 3 medicine pill refining master beside them to be distracted. The slowly burning flame trembled, and the medicinal herb that was being refined immediately turned into a lump of black slag that was automatically discharged from the mouth of the furnace. The young man acted as if he didn't hear it. His mind was highly focused, and his 10 fingers quickly changed. Dozens of differently colored medicinal liquids leapt out from the bottom of the cauldron, and under the control of the young man's powerful soul force, they slowly condensed together. At the same time, the enormous origin monarch chi in the former's body also crazily surged out from his hand, following a specific trajectory and injecting into the embryonic pill that was forming. At the crucial step, the surrounding crowd couldn't help but hold their breaths. The young man stared at the final step of the young man with full concentration. The young man stared at the embryonic pill that was slowly forming. The rapidly changing 10 fingers suddenly withdrew. The origin monarch chis that were crazily surging in also stopped in an instant. After which, the young man curled his finger in front of everyone's stunned eyes. A Tier 4 medicine pill embryonic pill flew into the former's hand. What's wrong? Seeing that the young man had voluntarily given up on the Tier 4 medicine pill that was about to be successfully refined, most of the onlookers looked at the former with stunned gazes. The young man stood up and glanced at the surrounding doubtful expressions. He smiled lightly and did not explain. He only cupped his hands towards the crowd and said, "Thank you for your support, my Southern Forest City's Li Lin. Today is just a small test. We will compete with you in the competition 5 days from now." After saying that, he pushed the crowd aside and walked out. Looking at the back of the young man, Xiao Yan couldn't help but sigh in his heart. This fellow couldn't help but have a strong alchemy skill. His disposition was also not simple. Refining a Tier 4 medicine pill required an extremely huge amount of origin monarch chis. If a monarch spirit wanted to refine a perfect Grade 4 medicine pill, he would need to consume at least half of the origin monarch chi in his body. And using up more than half of the origin monarch chi in this kind of treacherous situation was obviously not a wise move. It was just as the former said, it was just a test run. His gaze looked at the surrounding crowd. Naturally, there were some alchemists who could see the meaning behind the young man's actions. All of them laughed softly before they left in a straightforward manner. I am now able to refine a Tier 4 and 2-star medicine pill with the strength of an alien realm soul. That fellow called Li Lin just now. He should be refining a Tier 4 and 2-star medicine pill, even if he has retained his strength. I think that he can only refine a Tier 4 3-star medicine pill. If I include the Emperor Flame and the unique conditions of the Fighting Monarch of Lower Realm, I estimate that I can refine a Tier 4 5-star medicine pill. But the Origin Monarch Chi that can refine a Tier 4 5-star medicine pill might not be enough. Walking aimlessly on the plaza, Xiao Yan's head spun rapidly as he assessed his own strength. At the same time, he compared his own advantages and deficiencies as he calculated how to resolve it. I heard from Bai Qian that the previous champion of the pill competition refined a Tier 4 5-star medicine pill. However, this time around, he is only able to refine a Tier 4 5-star medicine pill. It is likely that he will not easily win, he thought for a moment. Xiao Yan helplessly patted his head and laughed self-deprecatingly. What's wrong with me? I haven't started the competition yet. He was actually starting to worry. There were so many storms and storms in the lower realm that he had to face. How could the tiny pill competition trouble me this time? There will always be a path ahead of me. It was useless to be anxious now. He had to take things one step at a time. Xiao Yan raised his head and found himself on the other side of the square. Just as he was about to turn around and leave, he suddenly heard a cold voice coming from not far away. It was a very familiar voice that made Xiao Yan frown. Bai Qian, she is actually here. Hearing the cold voice that contained some anger, Xiao Yan followed the voice and looked over. He saw two alchemists wearing black robes laughing as they surrounded Bai Qian. The latter had a cold expression and wanted to leave. The two men tightly pressed against each other and wrapped around Bai Qian, not letting her leave. It is indeed a femme fatale. However, there are really scum there. Xiao Yan chuckled when he saw this, then he rushed forward without hesitation. Putting aside everything else, Bai Qian was his teammate. Xiao Yan could not just sit there and do nothing, not to mention. Although Bai Qian had treated him coldly in the beginning, these few days, the two of them had gotten along pretty well, and from Bai Qian, Xiao Yan also knew a lot of things. Without any hesitation, Xiao Yan stepped forward. How about it, Miss Bai? You will compete with us in alchemy. If you win, we will give you the treasure that we just bought. If you lose, you don't need to pay any compensation. You can only play with us in the pill competition. How about it? A young man with a fat face looked at the cold Bai Qian in front of him. His eyes were full of lust. He swallowed his saliva and said in a lewd manner. Bai Qian immediately flew into a rage when she heard this. She held back the urge to slap the fat face in front of her. She also knew the opponent's strength. His soul strength had already reached the alien realm. Even in the spiritual sky city where heroes gathered, he could be considered as one of the top young alchemists. He was not someone that she, a peak true monarch stage, could compare with. Without looking at him, her pretty face turned cold as she said, "Get lost." After saying that, she bypassed the two of them and was about to leave. When the young man who had spoken earlier heard this, he sneered. This was the edge of the plaza. Very few people came here, even if there were. Everyone was a young man in his teens, full of vigor. They were all quite interested in this kind of thing. They would only watch from the side and no one would stop them. Immediately, he gave a look to his companion beside him. The latter laughed softly. His figure flashed and once again blocked in front of Bai Qian. The young man whose face was full of fat quickly extended his hand. He grabbed Bai Qian's arm. Since Miss Bai is unwilling, then... Ah! The young man who was talking suddenly screamed. He quickly let go of Bai Qian's arm and stepped back. The pain on his hand made him suck in a breath of cold air. The young man endured the pain and looked at the black-robed young man next to Bai Qian with a vicious voice. Do you not want to live anymore? Xiao Yan let go of the hand that was holding Bai Qian's arm. He laughed lightly and said coldly, I think you do not want to live anymore. Quote, 1-inch Xiao Yan? When Bai Qian saw the man in front of her, no matter how calm Bai Qian was, she cried out in shock. She did not even react when Xiao Yan grabbed her arm and put it down. Xiao Yan looked at Bai Qian and made a reassuring gesture to the latter. After which, he looked at the fat young man with a gloomy face. The latter looked at Xiao Yan and Bai Qian, who were wearing the same alchemist robe. He rubbed his wrist, which still had some pain, and said with a cold smile, So you are an alchemist from the same city. Why? Do you want a hero to save the damsel in distress? The young man who blocked Bai Qian also came to the fat young man's side. He took a closer look at the alchemist robe worn by Xiao Yan and Bai Qian. He couldn't help but laugh and said disdainfully, I was wondering who he was. I didn't expect him to be a trash from the Spirit Sky City. Is it because he didn't want to embarrass himself enough and wants to carry another one back? Spirit Sky City? The fat youth pondered for a moment when he heard this. Then, he laughed out loud as well. Then, He turned his lecherous eyes to Bai Qian, who was standing beside Xiao Yan, and said, "Although Spirit Sky City is trash when it comes to alchemy, the quality of this beautiful alchemist is also very high." Then he looked at Xiao Yan and said playfully, "Let that woman accompany us brothers for a few days. During the competition, I will help you easily advance to the first round." "How about it?" Xiao Yan blocked Bai Qian, who was clenching her teeth tightly, and said with a smile. "Help me easily advance to the first round? What a big tone. Tell me, how can you help me?" Xiao Yan couldn't help but laugh in his heart when he saw the two clowns' performance. "We are the alchemists of Ningxing City, and this is senior brother Yu Cheng, the most talented alchemist in Ningxing City. His soul strength had already reached the alien realm, and he could easily refine a Tier 4 medicine pill. Last time in the pill competition, the alchemists of our Ningxing City were ranked 8th. This time, with senior brother Yu Cheng's ability, you might even be able to make it into the top 5, allowing you to make it into the first round. Isn't it easy for him to make it into the first round?" Another youth heard Xiao Yan's words and pointed at the fat youth beside him and said proudly. Bai Qian, who was standing behind Xiao Yan, heard his words and her expression changed slightly. She gritted her teeth and did not expect that fellow to have such strength. She could not help but look at Xiao Yan, who was standing in front of her. Seeing that the latter's expression did not change at all, Bai Qian's mood inexplicably calmed down. "Top 5? He does have some strength," Xiao Yan suddenly smiled playfully and said. "But I want to get the first place in pill competition. If you two can help me get it easily, then this will be easy to discuss, right?" "What?" Yu Cheng, who had a smug look on his face, heard what Xiao Yan said, and his expression became extremely ugly. He looked at Xiao Yan with an irrepressible anger burning in his eyes. "Are you trying to fool me?" The smile on Xiao Yan's face suddenly turned cold. His body suddenly moved and appeared in front of Yu Cheng in the blink of an eye. Without any hesitation, he threw a punch at Yu Cheng's abdomen. Yu Cheng was caught off guard and was hit by Xiao Yan's full force. Instantly, he felt a heart-piercing pain in his abdomen. His body flew backwards and he kept spitting out blood along the way. With Xiao Yan's current strength, even an ordinary peak of monarch spirit wouldn't dare to face a full-force attack from him, let alone Yu Cheng, who was only a 2-star monarch spirit. "You, senior disciple Yu." The young man was startled by Xiao Yan's sudden fierceness. When he saw Yu Cheng struggling painfully on the ground, he broke out in a cold sweat and hastily ran over. "That's right, I was just playing with you. You only realized it now?" Xiao Yan sneered. Then he looked at the youth with a face full of sweat and said with a smile. "I heard you guys talking about some treasure just now. Take it out, and treat it as compensation for your senior brother's cheap hands." Xiao Yan's smile was as terrifying as a devil in the eyes of this young man. He immediately swallowed a mouthful of saliva, gritted his teeth and said, "My senior brother is unconscious. What compensation do you need?" "Unconscious? If this was somewhere outside, he would have died a long time ago. Cut the crap and bring it out." Xiao Yan looked at the unconscious Yu Cheng and said indifferently. Hearing Xiao Yan's cold words, the young man's heart trembled violently. It was also a young man who wasn't even 20 years old. This fellow's disposition was even more vicious than all the other young men he had met. Clenching his teeth, the young man unwillingly took out a dark green jade box from his storage ring. He handed it to Xiao Yan and showed it to Bai Qian. Seeing the latter nod, Xiao Yan chuckled and said, "Take him back to rest for 3 days. Maybe he can join the pill competition. Also, tell him to restrain himself a little in the future. If it was somewhere else, it won't be as simple as fainting. After all, not everyone is like me. Be soft-hearted." With a few soft laughs, Xiao Yan took the dark green jade box and walked in front of the dumbstruck Bai Qian. He said, "Let's go." "Ah." Bai Qian subconsciously agreed. In her mind, she still remembered Xiao Yan's thunderous means just now. Since she entered the Alchemist Guild when she was young, she had never seen such violent means. When she accidentally saw Wei Jun enter her teacher's residence with blood all over his body, deep in her heart, she began to strongly reject violence. This was also the reason why she hated the existence of Black Region, but now, Xiao Yan's thunderous means made it impossible for her to reject him. This is the end. Our eldest senior brother is injured to such an extent. The chairman will surely be furious. Bastard of the Spirit Sky City. Just you wait. Looking at Xiao Yan and Yu Cheng's departing figures, the young man roared in a low voice. After that, he lifted Yu Cheng and left with great difficulty. "What's inside?" Xiao Yan asked curiously as he fiddled with the dark green jade box in his hand. Bai Qian looked at Xiao Yan with a complicated look. Her voice was as cold as usual. "There is a green pattern pill inside. It can be considered a tier 4 and 5-star medicine pill. I found it in the pill pavilion. I was just about to buy it, but those two fellows snatched it away first, and then it became what you saw." "Green pattern pill? Good stuff." Xiao Yan was slightly startled. The effect of the green pattern pill was extremely useful to monarch spirit medicine pills. It could increase the absorption speed of the origin monarch qi in a short period of time, and it would bring unimaginable benefits to one's cultivation. Bai Qian smiled when she heard this. After pondering for a moment, she said, "You just said that you want to get first place, is that true?" Xiao Yan pondered for a moment and still nodded. "That's right. No matter what, I have to get first place. If that's the case, I'll give you this green pattern pill. Although you're strong, you're still only a monarch spirit. The origin monarch qi in your body is still limited. If you raise your grade by 1 point, the chances of you winning will increase by 1 point. Bai Qian smiled and said in a soft voice. Her cold temperament was indescribably attractive. Xiao Yan smiled awkwardly when he heard this. Although he was tempted, the value of this thing was not cheap. If he really took it for free, Xiao Yan would not be able to bear it. However, if he were to use the monarch crystal to buy it, he would need at least hundreds of thousands of monarch crystals. To the current Xiao Yan, this was also a huge sum of money. Similarly, he could not bear to take it out. Seemingly seeing Xiao Yan's embarrassment, Bai Qian laughed and said, "Take it. You won the championship not only for you, but also for the Spirit Sky City. You should also see how the alchemists of other cities look down on the Spirit Sky City along the way." Xiao Yan nodded his head when he heard her. He put away the jade box and suddenly said, "Where is the pill pavilion you mentioned just now?" Bai Qian looked at Xiao Yan and said, "Where is the pill house? You want to go?" "Of course. Observing more medicine pills will give you some inspiration for the competition in a few days." "That's right. Let's go. I'll bring you there." Bai Qian smiled when she heard this. She turned around and walked back the way she came. Xiao Yan hurriedly followed. In the alchemist station, when Shi Shen saw the unconscious disciple, his blood rushed to his head. He angrily said, "Ji Yun, this bastard, he actually ordered his disciples to kill people. How can a tiny spirit sky city be turned upside down?" When the young man who carried the girl saw this, he hurriedly fanned the flames and said, "Teacher, you don't know. That guy looked down on our limestone city and even mocked you. You must help us seek justice." Shi Shen let out a long breath, calmed himself down, and said, "Just you wait. I will go to the Spiritual Sky City's Alchemist Association's chairman now to react. If something happens in his territory, I want to see how he will explain it to me." "Ah, aren't you going to look for Ji Yun directly?" Hearing his teacher's words, the young man could not hide his disappointment. "There can't be any conflict between the leaders. Do I have to lower my status to find trouble with that kid? Don't worry. Based on what they've done, it wouldn't be an exaggeration to remove their spots for the competition." As he spoke, Shi Shen walked out of the room. "Excluding the qualification to participate in the competition? Hee, that's good too. At least I got rid of a formidable opponent for eldest senior brother." The young man's heart trembled slightly when he recalled Xiao Yan's powerful soul energy. Under Bai Qian's lead, the two of them walked along a wide road by the square. At the end of the road was a huge attic. 2 huge golden characters were carved on the plaque on the attic, giving off a vast aura. Pill Pavilion. Looking at the 2 large golden characters, Xiao Yan was slightly delighted in his heart. He followed Bai Qian and quickly walked forward. There were also some alchemists entering and exiting the pavilion. Most of them were filled with excitement as they walked in. As they walked through the magnificent door, a cold feeling was felt, causing one's spirit to tremble. The layout of the hall was even more unique. It was brightly lit, and pill cabinets filled with medicine pills were neatly arranged. A few alchemists in 2s and 3s lowered their heads and carefully observed the medicine pills being sold. Xiao Yan casually looked at a few pill cabinets and frowned. He said to Bai Qian, who was beside him, "These medicine pills are only of the 2nd or 3rd grade. Where did you buy the green pattern pills?" Bai Qian pointed to the sky and said in a clear voice, "The pill pavilion is divided into 3 levels. The first level is open to most alchemists. There are more good things in the second level. Only alchemists who have reached the peak of true monarch stage are allowed to enter. As for the third level, only alien realm soul alchemists are allowed to enter. The pill pavilion is divided into 3 levels. The first level is open to most alchemists. The second level has more good things. Only alchemists who have reached the peak of true monarch stage are allowed to enter. As for the third level, only alien realm soul alchemists are allowed to enter." Xiao Yan couldn't help but feel delighted when he heard this. Without further ado, he looked around and walked straight to the stairs not far away. "Let's go to the 3rd floor and take a look. He has indeed reached the alien realm soul." Bai Qian sighed in her heart when she heard Xiao Yan's words. Her heart became even more complicated. She had arrived at the spiritual sky city from the early morning. It had only been half a day since she arrived. She had seen too many alchemy geniuses. The heroic spirit in her heart that she had been proud of for the spirit sky city had almost been used up, although she was unwilling to accept it. However, she had to admit that if Xiao Yan wasn't here this time, it was very likely that Spirit Sky City would run back with their tail between their legs, just like some people had said. It was really funny. The honor of the Spirit Sky City's Alchemist Guild actually depended on a person from the Black region to fight for it. Bai Qian let out a bitter laugh and looked at Xiao Yan's back. She let out a long breath and the worries in her heart quickly disappeared. Without much hesitation, she followed Xiao Yan to the 3rd floor. There were many alchemists on the 2nd floor, even more than the 1st floor. Without any hesitation, Xiao Yan and Bai Qian arrived at the 3rd floor. "Please show me your soul power." An old man was sitting cross-legged at the passageway of the 3rd floor. When he saw Xiao Yan and Bai Qian coming up, he said indifferently. Soul power surged out from between his eyebrows, forming a powerful cyclone. The old man opened his eyes and carefully sensed it with his narrowed eyes. He then nodded, indicating that Xiao Yan could enter. Seeing Xiao Yan and Bai Qian about to go in, the old man suddenly said, "Soul energy has yet to reach the alien realm. No one is allowed to enter the 3rd floor of the pill pavilion." Xiao Yan was stunned for a moment, and was about to say something. Bai Qian smiled and said, "This is also a rule. Just follow it. I will walk around on the 2nd floor. You can go up." As she spoke, he bowed to the old man and left. When Xiao Yan saw this, he didn't feel good either. He said something and looked at Bai Qian's disappearing figure, then entered the 3rd floor without hesitation. After the two of them left, the old man's turbid eyes opened again. He laughed lightly and muttered, "Spirit Sky City. When did such a monstrous talent appear? This year's pill competition. Hee, there are really many strong people here." Xiao Yan pushed open the tightly shut door and walked into the 3rd floor of the pill pavilion. He looked at the counter that was much smaller than the 1st floor. Xiao Yan did not feel depressed at all. Although there were few things inside, they were all 1 in a million good things. He casually walked to a counter and looked inside through the protective glass. When he saw the medicine pills on the counter, Xiao Yan could not help but click his tongue in wonder. The lowest grade medicine pills here were all Tier 4 5th rank medicine pills. There were even quite a number of 5th rank medicine pills. Each of them was round and smooth, looking extremely pleasing to the eye. There were a lot fewer alchemists on the 3rd floor compared to the 2nd floor. There were only a few of them, and these people might be alchemists with outstanding performance in the pill competition in the future. When Xiao Yan arrived in front of a pill cabinet and swept his gaze across it, his face suddenly lit up with joy. Among the numerous medicine pills in the cabinet, there were 3 green medicine pills. They were green pattern pills. Xiao Yan took out the dark green jade box from before and opened it. There was also a green medicine pill lying quietly within. Xiao Yan compared the color of the 2 green pattern pills. It was obvious that the 3 green pattern pills in the pill cabinet were much rounder. These 3 green pattern pills should have reached the peak of the 4th and 5th grade. Even with my current alchemy skill, it will take some effort to refine it. Looking at the price at the bottom, it was 120,000 monarch crystals. The corner of Xiao Yan's mouth couldn't help but twitch. 3 Xiao Yans would cost 360,000. Although Xiao Yan currently had millions of monarch crystals on him, he needed to take out more than 300,000 monarch crystals. It was still extremely painful. What medicine pill does this little brother want? If the monarch crystal is not enough, we can use other medicine pills to replace it. We will value it based on the market price." Just as Xiao Yan gritted his teeth and was about to take out 360,000 monarch crystals, a fat middle-aged man walked over with a smile. "Replace?" Xiao Yan couldn't help but feel happy. After thinking for a while, he flipped his palm. A few Tier 4 medicine pills appeared in his hand. After which, he said, "I want all 3 green pattern pills." These Tier 4 medicine pills were all refined by Xiao Yan when he was practicing in the Spirit Sky City. The highest was only grade 4 stars, and it was unknown how many monarch crystals it could match. The middle-aged man took the medicine pills and looked at them carefully. His eyes were a little surprised as he looked at them. Then, he smiled and said, "There are a total of 6 Tier 4 medicine pills. It can be exchanged for about 300,000 monarch crystals. Little brother only needs to take out 6. "Oh, no, 50,000 monarch crystals will do." Xiao Yan was overjoyed. Just as he was about to take out the monarch crystal, a deep and rough voice came from behind him. "Wait, I want those 3 green pattern pills." Following the voice, a young man with a gloomy expression walked to Xiao Yan's side. His eyes faintly laid on the few Xiao Yan gave the middle-aged man. When Xiao Yan heard this, his originally happy expression calmed down. He looked at the gloomy young man beside him and a trace of a smile appeared on the corner of his mouth. He said, "I'm sorry, these 3 green pattern pills have already been taken care of by me." When the cold-looking young man heard this, he grinned and said, "The highest bidder will get it. The green pattern pills are not in your hands yet. Why can't I bid now? I bid 400,000 monarch crystals." When the middle-aged man heard this, he smiled bitterly at the cold-looking young man and said, "About this, there should at least be someone who comes first, right? When doing business, one must be reasonable." The cold-looking young man's gaze was fixed on the medicine pill in the middle-aged man's hand. When he heard the middle-aged man's words and was about to retaliate, a faint voice suddenly sounded from the side, "Sen Fei, what are you doing?" The few of them looked over and saw a handsome young man wearing a blue robe and with blue hair that draped over his shoulders. He held a folding fan in his hand and walked over with a young man who looked very similar to the cold-looking young man. What he had said just now had come out of the latter's mouth. "Young master." When he saw the two of them, the cold-looking young man hastily said respectfully. After that, he told them everything that happened. The handsome young man glanced at Xiao Yan and said with a smile, "What's there to fight for? It's just a green pattern pill. I can easily refine it. Let's go. This time, I'll give it to these fellows from the Alchemist Association." After saying that, he walked out with his hands behind his back. When the cold-looking young man heard that, he didn't dare show any neglect. He looked at Xiao Yan provocatively, then followed the handsome young man and the other young man and left in a hurry. Xiao Yan watched the 3 of them leave. Suddenly, a strong sense of danger emerged in his heart. After pondering for a moment, he couldn't help but smile. It seemed like all the alchemist's opponents had arrived. Walking along the corridor leading to the 2nd floor, the handsome young man casually said, "Did you see the grade of the pill that kid took out just now?" When the gloomy young man heard that, he hurriedly said, "According to my observation, the highest grade should not be higher than grade 4 or 4 stars. Only the 4th grade." The handsome young man smiled disdainfully when he heard this. "That guy's soul strength has also reached the alien realm. If this is his true ability, that's too weak. It won't affect me at all. All right. In the future, I won't pay any attention to those alchemists in the small cities. There's no way they can defeat me. The most important thing is, it should be Xiao Yu from Spiritual Sky City. Like Zhou Gushan, Lu Ying, and the others. They are no longer a threat to me. How can Xiao Yu be your match? In my opinion, the champion of this year's pill competition will be you, Li Zan, young master," the cold-looking young man said hastily. "That's right. The young master specially came here from the headquarters of the Mercenary Alliance in order to become the champion of the pill competition and increase the prestige of all the mercenary corps in the Spirit Heaven Mansion." Another young man who looked similar to the gloomy and cold young man said respectfully. The handsome young man smiled when he heard this. He let out a soft humph and didn't say anything else. The fighting spirit in his eyes was getting stronger and stronger. In an exquisite pavilion in the alchemist station, Shi Shen looked at the energetic old man sitting in front of him and told him everything that Xiao Yan had done. "Chairman Hua, The contestant from Spirit Sky City injured my disciple. Perhaps it will involve the pill competition in a few days. Do you think we should punish the Spirit Sky City? Shi Shen said with righteous indignation. The vice chairman of Spiritual Sky City's Alchemist Association, Hua Yan, sat on a hassock. He took a sip of tea and said with amusement, "The disciples of the Spirit Sky City injured the disciples of your White Rock City with their soul power? Chairman Shi, you didn't lose your head from anger, did you? No matter what, White Rock City is one of the top 10 cities of the pill competition in the past. It was actually injured by an alchemist of the Spirit Sky City." Shi Shen gritted his teeth and said, "I wonder where that old bastard Ji Yun is looking for. That little devil's soul power is indeed powerful. At least, he has reached the alien realm soul." Hua Yan smiled in surprise. "Does this mean that the Spirit Sky City might not fall by one this time?" Shi Shen nodded. He said in a low voice, "That brat's origin is unknown. He definitely doesn't look like an alchemist nurtured by the Alchemist Guild. He is ruthless and decisive. My disciple is competing with him in terms of soul power, but he took the opportunity to launch a sneak attack. I suspect that this fellow might be an alchemist from the Mercenary Corps. He is taking the opportunity to get rid of the more talented alchemist from the association." Hua Yan frowned when he heard this. He couldn't help but ponder. If what Shi Shen said was true, that young man would be extremely suspicious. Thinking of this, Hua Yan's face turned cold. "I understand. You can go back now. I will deal with this matter as soon as possible." Shi Shen was delighted in his heart. On the surface, he still said with a solemn expression, "That's right. The evil deeds done to the alchemists of Mercenary Corps must not be tolerated." After saying that, he was about to leave. "Teacher, it's not like that." Just as Shi Shen turned around to leave, the door to the room suddenly opened. A young man wearing a green alchemist robe pushed open the door and walked in. The young man was extremely handsome. His black hair was draped over his shoulders, and his face was as warm as jade. A faint smile appeared on the young man's face as he looked at Shi Shen in the room. "Gushen, why are you here?" Seeing the young man walk in, Hua Yan smiled and said with a serious expression, "What did you just say?" "What do you mean?" As he spoke, he looked at Shi Shen. "What the student means is that his words are completely inverting black and white." The young man looked at Shi Shen and said with a faint smile. Shi Shen's expression changed drastically when he heard that. He looked at Hua Yan and said in a deep voice, "Chairman Hua, who is this young man? How dare he speak so carelessly?" Hua Yan coldly harumphed. Just as he was about to speak, the young man introduced himself. "My name is Zhou Gushen. I am Chairman Hua's student. I am not talking nonsense. When the participants of Spirit Sky City clashed with the alchemists of your city, I happened to be present as well." After that, Zhou Gushen slowly told Shi Shen everything that he had seen. When Shi Shen heard Zhou Gushen's words, his face gradually turned the color of pig liver. When Zhou Gushen finished speaking, Shi Shen looked at Hua Yan with a gloomy face and said, "Chairman Hua, who do you believe in, the words of the chairman of White Rock City and this little guy?" Hua Yan sneered and said without hesitation, "Of course I believe Gushen's words." "Chairman Shi Sheng, go back and ask your student what is going on. I still have things to do, so I won't send the guest away." Shi Shen gritted his teeth and looked at the two people in the room. He unwillingly cupped his fists at Hua Yan and forcefully suppressed his anger as he left. Seeing Shi Shen leave, Hua Yan chuckled. Then, he turned to Zhou Gushen and said with a smile on his face, "According to what you just said, you have some confidence in the strength of that young man from Spirit Sky City." Zhou Gushen sat on the hassock in front of Hua Yan and said with a smile, "Although that guy's soul power is slightly weaker than a student's, judging from his clean and straightforward expression, I think he might have some extraordinary strength. I think he should be able to enter the top 10. Hua Yan took a sip of tea and nodded. He said softly, "That's Spirit Sky City. Looks like it will become a dark horse this year." "Oh right, how is Xiao Yu?" "Eldest senior brother should still be cultivating. If he can advance to the 5th Dao Monarch Spirit before the competition, then he can strive to refine a Tier 4 7-star medicine pill. At that time, his chances of winning will be greater," Zhou Gushen replied. "Grade 4 7-star. Hee. Xiao Yu's heart is really big. The previous champion had merely refined a Tier 4 5-star peak medicine pill. If it was able to refine a Tier 4 7-star medicine pill, winning the championship would definitely not be a problem. How are you? Hua Yan smiled when he heard this, and then looked at his most treasured student. Students naturally can't compare to senior brother Xiao Yu. However, he should be able to refine a grade 4 6-star medicine pill. Zhou Gushan pondered for a moment and said seriously. Hua Yan chuckled and said, "That's enough. Your talent is enough to become the champion in the last batch. This batch's Xiao Yu is undoubtedly an even more terrifying monstrous genius. At that time, Xiao Yu will be the champion, you will be the second, and that girl Lu Ying will be the third. Show those alchemists of Mercenary Corps the strength of spiritual Sky City." Zhou Gushan smiled and nodded when he heard what Hua Yan said. The fighting spirit in his eyes seemed to have been ignited by Hua Yan's words. In the alchemist station, after Xiao Yan and Bai Qian returned from the pill pavilion, Xiao Yan greeted the few of them and entered his room. He sat cross-legged on the bed and took out the 4 Xiao Yans. Xiao Yan looked at the 4 medicine pills in front of him and couldn't help but fall into deep thought. Xiao Yan wasn't sure about the strength of the blue-haired youth he met in the pill pavilion, but from his words, it could be seen that if he wasn't boasting Hong Long, he can refine a tier 4 or 5 green pattern pill at will. With his full strength, he should be able to refine a tier 4, tier 6, or even 7-star medicine pill. Thinking up to this point, Xiao Yan could not help but laugh. Sure enough, there were many talented people here. There were indeed many people stronger than him. However, from what he said, he should be an alchemist from the Mercenary Corps. With this, the pill competition will be bustling with noise and excitement, Xiao Yan mumbled to himself. The hot blood in his chest began to boil. He looked at the 4 green pattern pills in front of him and took a deep breath. Without hesitation, he took out one and stuffed it into his mouth. With his current strength, he was only able to refine a grade 4 5-star medicine pill. The hope of winning the championship was too small. The only thing he could do now was to increase the grade of his Emperor Qi as much as possible. Only by having sufficient origin monarch Qi in his body could he refine a high-grade medicine pill more conveniently, and also have sufficient confidence to challenge a higher-grade medicine pill. When the green pattern pill entered his body, Xiao Yan immediately felt a heat wave being emitted from his dantian. The surface of his body became a little red because of this. Xiao Yan hurriedly withdrew his mind. He focused all of his attention on digesting the green pattern pill, and following Xiao Yan's cultivation. The huge origin monarch Qis in the surrounding air seemed to have found a vent, crazily rushing into Xiao Yan's body. Under the purification of the monarch flame, it turned into the purest origin monarch Qi and entered Xiao Yan's origin monarch crystal. It began to form an origin chains. In the following period of time, Xiao Yan did not leave his room. He consumed all 4 green pattern pills. When the 4th green pattern pill was completely digested, 3 days quietly passed. The spiritual Sky City had finally welcomed the day of the pill competition's registration. After that, the grand pill competition would begin.